Hi, my name is Ravi Kiran, and if you are watching this video, it means that you are in a conversation with somebody in our team to discuss the potential of possibility of working together, right? So, over the next 15-20 minutes, I would like to brief you about what we do. However, I would like to introduce myself first. As I said, my name is Ravi, and I am from Bangalore. By background, I am an electronics engineer. I studied in a college called PESIT, and I graduated in the year 2002. And in 2002, I topped my college and I stood fourth in the VTU engineering in Karnataka. And so, pretty much, I have a strong technical background. And I thought that is enough to get a very good job and settle down in life. So, I joined TCS. While I was in my final year, I got placed in TCS, and I also had a startup experience, a failed startup experience. So early on, I realized that I didn't want to work in a job, though I was working in TCS for some time. I did not want to work a job all my life. So I was looking for opportunities where I could diversify and eventually branch out and become independent. However, I couldn't find anything initially. About 4 or 5 years into my job, I also realized that why did we fail in our startup experience. One of the reasons was, since I come from an engineering background, we had zero knowledge about marketing or sales, and we couldn't sell what we had. And I realized that what is more important than an idea or a product or a service is mentorship. Because if we had somebody guiding us, probably we would have made it. So this time I was looking for a strong mentor, somebody who can guide me through the process, because that is invaluable, friends. Ideas are a dime by the dozen, but finding somebody who can guide, mentor, and support you in that journey of entrepreneurship, I believe, is the most crucial part of the jigsaw puzzle, right? So I found my business mentor, Ankur and Taru Gupta. Ankur has a degree from IIT Delhi, and very successful entrepreneur, and I convinced him to help me out and sort of guide me through the process. I have had a couple of mentors along the way as I started off. So I started my entrepreneurial journey along with my full-time job at TCS, and I would work my job in TCS, and in the evening I would operate my business, and in the weekends I would operate my business. Within a few years, our business hit a 1 crore revenue thanks to the mentorship program, and that gave us a part-time income which was on par with whatever me and my wife were making in our full-time professions. And that caught our attention. I was working in TCS full time. My wife Parimala was working in Wipro full time, but we were able to create a third income, which was as strong as our full time corporate incomes, and that got us thinking, because now we understood that if we could create this in our spare time, we should be able to multiply it going forward. And that is when we started investing a lot of time and energy into developing our business, and in about 2 to 3 years time frame, we became completely independent. And the reason I'm sharing my introduction is this story from somebody who's working as an employee without any business background, finding a mentor, transitioning slowly from an employee into an entrepreneur completely, and full-time into entrepreneurship, is not a story that is very regular in today's society. So obviously it does not happen by fluke. There is a lot of background stuff which goes behind, a lot of work which goes behind, and I would attribute it to the mentorship program that we have. Okay, and today obviously we coach and mentor many young people, young and experienced people, to be independent in their own businesses, right? So that's a little bit of our background. So if I have to sum up my experience, first 5 years I did purely a job in TCS. The next 5 years it was job plus running a business, both together. And the last 8 years we have been full-time into entrepreneurship. So total of 18 years of industry experience. Coming to the details, why are we in this discussion? Before I get into the details, I also would like to tell you that today, as we are confronted with the COVID-19 situation, we are entering the global recession probably, and I think time is ripe for all of us to understand that we need to create some kind of a security along with our full-time profession, because nobody planned for something like this. And when the disaster hits, that is when we start realizing that we need a secondary source of revenue probably which is more secure than just a job to be able to rely on, that can give us that peace of mind in this turbulent times, right? So we'll discuss that, how we can go about doing that. The first thing, let's understand what is the agenda today. So the agenda is, we would like to give you a high level overview. We would like to employ a top down approach here. We would like to discuss with you the business model first, give you a little bit of information overview, hand over some materials to you. If we can make a connection, if our frequencies match, then we would like to catch up again over another couple of conversations, maybe personally also, and then discuss a little bit in deeper details, right? So we would like, I would like to tell you that we are going to probably have multiple conversations over the next couple of weeks. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we are doing. Give you an overview first. So when you look at business, the sole purpose of a business is to solve a problem, right? The bigger the problem you identify, you give a classy solution, the bigger the opportunity you will have to create a larger success in society as well. So what kind of a problem are we trying to solve? Though we are operating in 10 plus verticals, I would like to just take a small example today, because our 70% of our revenues comes from health and wellness industry. So we would like to stick to that today for today's discussion. In health and wellness, we have looked at obesity as one of the cornerstones, a niche area that we want to operate in. Why? Because 70+% of urban Indian population are overweight and obese. That leads to multiple lifestyle disorders like diabetes or heart problems, and India has already become the diabetic capital of the world. For that matter of fact, we want to be able to create some impact in this area, and we have found very practical solution, which we will talk in the later stages. And we were able to create a lot of we were able to create a lot of goodwill in the society already in the last few years that we have been operating, by helping a lot of people transform themselves and impact their lives very positively. How do we do this? Is a part of a discussion that we would like to have as we qualify some of you in the process that we have. But for today, we want to talk about how we are operating a little bit at a high level. How does the whole thing work? What is the number one challenge of a business? What is the number one challenge of any business? I believe it is the leads. It's the customer. Where is my next customer coming from? Where are my leads coming from? Do I have to approach? Do I have to push it, or will it happen automatically? So we have to understand a few things here. Many businesses, when they start off, they employ a push strategy where they reach out to the marketplace. They bombard the marketplace with their services and their products. And that's how the customers come to know about them, and they come to them. But that requires a lot of capital, and it requires full-time commitment as well. The challenge that I was faced with was, I did not want to quit my job. I wanted to keep my job. At the same time, I want to be able to operate a business as well, because that's the safest thing to do. Until you're proving yourself, until you're very successful, you want to be able to operate something part-time. And for that to happen, the only way to do that is to be able to create a model or work a model that we can sustain along with our full-time profession. So we have employed a pull strategy. We help people who get selected in our team. We help them with personal branding, social media, and pull strategy, so that their number one challenge gets resolved and their clients come to them. They don't have to reach out to their clients reach out to them. That is the first thing that we have to do in business. Whenever somebody starts a business, the first goal is to become profitable, right? And if you're not profitable, you won't be in business for a long time. So we want to become profitable, and we help people who are selected to come and be a part of our team to be able to become profitable very quickly through this methodology. We will not go into details today. I'm just giving you a high level overview. So how we exactly implement pull strategy, how do we create personal branding, is something that we leave it to the entrepreneurship bootcamp that we conduct on a monthly basis. You have to ask the person who gave you this video whether you qualify to attend that bootcamp. Okay. So once we create a customer base, a small customer base, you're pretty much profitable. Once you're profitable, what is the next thing to do? The next thing is expansion. So let's discuss the business model on which this whole thing operates. The business model that we operate with is called the network distribution business model, or the network marketing business model. Now, have you been exposed to network distribution model before? Have you not been exposed to network distribution model before? we do not know as of now. It is something that you would like to discuss with the person who has given you this video. But what I would like to tell you is at a high level how the industry operates. Okay, it's very important to understand this. A few years back, I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by an author called Robert Kiyosaki, who is a foremost author in financial domain. And this book was an enlightening book because this book taught me about the 4 quadrants of people who make income in the society. So I would like to explain a little bit about what happens in this industry by explaining to you about how different people make money. So there are 4 quadrants, as Robert Kiyosaki says. The first quadrant is the employee quadrant. I was an employee working for a company. So a lot of us belong to that quadrant where we are trading our time for money. The second quadrant is the self-employed quadrant, where the doctors, the lawyers, the chartered accountants, the freelancers and the startup owners come into that position where they work for themselves. It's a better position to be in than the employee, but a lot of them cannot scale up their operations at will. So that's a challenge there. And typically 90% of the population are residing in the employee or the self-employment quadrant. The third quadrant is the business quadrant. This is a very interesting thing. These people invest their time in creating systems and processes which in turn governs their business, which creates the income for them. That is why they create a little bit of a better kind of an income called an asset-based income. The employees and the self-employed quadrant people, they trade their time for money. And the business quadrant people, they leverage systems and processes to make money for them. So that is why it is very, very important to be able to understand how do we be able to operate in the B quadrant. The fourth quadrant of people are the I quadrant, the investor quadrant, where their money works to make money for them. Okay, so let's understand a little bit about the network distribution industry, how these quadrants apply to that. But I would like to give you my own example. When I was working for TCS, I was in the employee quadrant. So I could be in IT industry, but I could be in the E quadrant. If I run a startup, then I will be in the S quadrant. I am in the same IT industry, but I am now in the S quadrant. I could, create an IT company with 500 employees or more, then I could be in the B quadrant. It's the same IT industry, but I have switched the quadrants now. And if I become like Narayan Murthy or Azim Premji, where my money is making money for me, it's the same IT industry, but I am in the investor quadrant. So there are in the same industry you can operate in all the 4 quadrants. The same thing applies to any industry as such, and in network distribution industry also, it pretty much applies to this industry as well. Let me explain to you how different people operate in the network distribution industry. Now, how do people operate in the E quadrant in the network distribution industry? Maybe they are just selling a few products. Maybe they're just buying something on discount, and they're just referring, they're just creating some sales in their, maybe their neighbors or their friends. That's pretty much the operation in the E quadrant. Do you want to learn from these people? See, I was already in the E quadrant. Why would I want to learn from somebody who's already operating in the E quadrant? I don't think he or she has pretty much anything different to offer to me from already, what I already know. So I don't want to be mentored by somebody who is in the E quadrant, because I am also there. And I'm already doing a good job of being in the E quadrant. How do people operate in the S quadrant in network distribution? Probably they sell a few stuff to their friends and family. They create a little bit of a business, and maybe they use their personality. Maybe some people are good with communication. Maybe they use that skill and they recruit a couple of people and they teach them to do what they're doing. It's a small business which is primarily dependent on the charisma of that individual. There are no systems and processes to be able to scale up. That's a pretty small business again. That also creates some kind of an income. But do I want to have that? Honestly, no. My goal was to create an asset-based income, as I was discussing in the B quadrant. What is a business which runs in B quadrant in network distribution? As I said, systems and processes. Once we have a system and process developed, and there is a proper recruitment strategy, there's a proper empowerment strategy, there is a proper strategy to create customers, and there's a proper strategy to be able to expand and scale up your network. Only then does it classify to come under the B quadrant. And when I got into business with my mentor, I pretty much understood that, since my mentor creates crores of revenues in this industry, he cannot be operating in the E quadrant and the S quadrant. He is operating in the B quadrant. And I wanted to know what this guy knows, because only he is in a position to teach me, to coach me, to guide me, to mentor me, to go from E to S and then to B, which is exactly what I have done through his help. And that is very, very, very important to understand. The biggest mistake that people do here is they look at their friend or their family member who is also in the E quadrant and who is trying to operate a business still in the E quadrant, because you can be given an opportunity which can take you to the B quadrant, but if the mindset is still the E quadrant, pretty much nothing develops into the B quadrant. As long as we think like an employee, we will not be able to succeed as a business owner. We need to get that mindset of a business owner, and who can teach us that mindset but somebody who is already in the B quadrant. The challenge has always been, do you know somebody in the B quadrant who can help you and guide you? I didn't know anybody. And usually people in the B quadrant are elusive people. They're not very accessible to people like us. It's very difficult to catch hold of them. Once I got hold of somebody in that quadrant who was willing to help me, I took it very seriously. And that opportunity exists to you if you prove yourself through the selection process that we have, and you do well in the entrepreneurship bootcamp that we have to offer to you. So that's pretty much at a high level about how a network distribution industry also works, very similar to the ESBI of any industry. And our goal was not to create an income which was based on trading time and making money, but an income which was based on asset creation and building a network of entrepreneurs, enabling people, empowering people is an asset by itself. And I was very keen to develop that asset, and I had to learn now how to do it, because it is not that straightforward. There's some new skills have to be learned, some new mindset has to be acquired. It takes a little bit of a time. Okay, we have covered how customers come to us, how when somebody gets selected to be a part of our team, we help them in creating helping with them with social medias, the pull strategy, and all the methodologies, so that they can create a customer base, they can become very profitable. And we have also talked about how to not just stay in the E quadrant and the S quadrant and create a time leveraging income, rather than go into the B quadrant and then create an asset based income. We have covered these two things. Let's talk about what we can offer to you. See, as we speak, our team has been able to generate more than 10 crore annual revenue as per the last year. So we know something. We have been able to do well in this industry, and we will be whoever comes on board, we have been able to help them progress as well. The key is not the 10 crore annual revenue. The key is to understand that there are no employees here. 10 crore annual revenue, no employees, and hardly running cost of 4,000-5,000 rupees a month to run a large operation. So basically you're looking at a low cost setup and a high return industry. Of course, it comes with the learning of new skills. We have to pick up a new skills. We have to pick up a different way of thinking. Obviously, we need to get mentored. We need to make some changes, but the returns are pretty solid, and that is why we are very selective with whom we work, and that's why we have a pretty elaborate selection process. So as we speak to you today, we would like to have multiple conversations with you, trying to explain to you at different levels of how we operate, and take the discussions deeper as we progress further. And if you are able to connect, we would like to help you through the entrepreneurship bootcamp that we run for a month, and then sort of onboard you, launch you, and then help you set up a business with us. So that's pretty much how we will go about in the next 1 or 2 months. How do we, what kind of materials do we want to give you? What kind of people are we looking for? The first one is, I hope you're hungry. I hope you have a need to do something outside your job, because it's going to take about 10 to 15 hours a week on an investment every week to be able to do something in entrepreneurship field. It cannot be run like a hobby. We'll need to segregate some amount of time, very regularly, to be able to accomplish something here, right? That is the goal. So I hope that hunger is there. And how do we measure that? As we give you the materials, we expect you to finish that materials. We want to see how keen are you to grasp more information, gather more data, which will sort of get us through the next set of conversations. The second thing we are looking at is we are looking at people who can be independent decision makers. because a lot of people get swayed by friends and family and well-wishers. However, if your well-wishers are in the E quadrant or in the S quadrant like my well-wishers were, I think it is probably time, and probably it is the first time in your life maybe that you are going to work with somebody who is in the B quadrant, and that person need not come from somebody that you already know. And that is why we want to work with people who can make independent decisions, because given facts, given data, given information, we want to see how quickly and what kind of decisions will people make. And we would love to work with people who can make independent decisions. We want to work with people who are willing to learn and willing to change. Though I was coming from a PeopleSoft CRM background, I was leading teams in TCS. This was a new domain for me. I had pretty much zero experience in business. I had to humble myself and learn from somebody who was very successful in his industry. And if I was not willing to learn and willing to change, they wouldn't have invested their time in grooming me and helping me become successful today, right? So these are the 2-3 things that we look forward to. And once somebody has these qualities in place, of course the most important thing is accountability. We want to work with people who are good for their word. If somebody tells me that they will finish a certain material by that date, I would love to hear back from them during that time. If I tell you something, I would also try to, I would live up to my word as well. So we want to work with accountable people, because people who don't respond to messages, who don't respond to calls, very difficult to establish a kind of a working relationship to be able to mentor or coach them. Because we offer a mentorship program. We offer a program where we can coach somebody and mentor somebody to actually build something along with their full-time profession and be very successful at it. And we have proved it time and again. The last thing I want to tell you is we want to leave you some materials. That is the most important thing. Based on whether it is we would certainly want to give you a book. You would want to tell the person who got you on this video whether you love reading books or you're okay with reading books, because Rich Dad Poor Dad was a great book, guys. It was a wonderful book, but the problem is many people read the book, they started a small business, but they were unable to scale it up. Going from S quadrant to B quadrant is not as straightforward. And that's why Robert Kiyosaki researched the industries. He wrote a beautiful book to answer that, a particular question. How do you scale it up? How do you build something which can sustain? He wrote a book called Business of 21st Century. One of the best books I've read, a very small book, but very impactful. Talks about why it is important to have a business outside your full-time profession, why it is important to build, financial assets. What are the 8 wealth building assets? I didn't know there were 8 wealth building assets. I thought money was the only asset. So this is a very well read book. We would like to give you this book so that you can read this book, and then we can have further discussions, because our business model is based out of whatever Robert Kiyosaki talks in this book. So I believe it's a huge value add. But if you're somebody who doesn't like to read that much, we would also like to give you an audio material. Basically, we would like to give you some materials, and we would like to see, are you clearing out some time? Are you placing a priority on it to gather some information first? And if you do, then we would like to have further conversations with you and see how we can take it to the next level. And I would like to, wish you all the best in this journey. And hopefully we will find something which is common, which can enable us to work together in the long term. Thank you.